This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi on the Tom Bigby River. Sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This episode is about Jacob McGavock Dickinson, who once lived in Columbus, Mississippi. Jacob M. Dickinson was born in Columbus, Mississippi to Henry and Ann Dickinson in 1851. His father was a chancery judge for the state from 1843 to 1854. Jacob enlisted as a private at age 14 in the Confederate Army in the last weeks of the war. After the war, he completed his schooling in Columbus, and in 1871, he graduated from the University of Nashville. And in 1872, he completed a master's at the University of Nashville. He then went on to study law at Columbia University, but only briefly, because then he went abroad to Leipzig to study law, and then to École de Droit in the Sorbonne in Paris from 1872 to 1874. He was then admitted to the Tennessee bar in 1874 and set up a lucrative practice in Nashville. By 1889, he was president of the Tennessee Bar Association, and in 1891 to 1893, he was appointed to temporary service as a member of the Supreme Court of Tennessee. In 1895, he was appointed Assistant Attorney General of the U.S. and served in that position until 1897, when he was appointed General Attorney for the Louisville and Nashville Railroad, the L&N, and became a professor of law at Vanderbilt University. In 1899, he was recruited to the position of Solicitor General of the Illinois Railroad, and by 1901, he was their general counsel, a position he would hold until 1909. For many years, the U.S. had been in a territorial boundary dispute with Canada over the controlling agency, which they were still part of Great Britain, that had occurred since the Alaska Purchase in 1867, which the U.S. had inherited the messes of Russia's boundary headaches with Canada. It was at this time also that the Klondike Gold Rush in Yukon, Canada, in 1897 and 1898 had created a significant increase in U.S. citizens living in that area. At that time, tempers were flaring, and Mounties rode in, and the U.S. men who lived in that area stood their ground, resulting in Canada sending in a 200 Army man unit to establish Canadian sovereignty in the disputed area. In the fall of 1898, negotiations began about this, but no resolution could be reached. In 1903, the Hay-Herbert Treaty between the U.S. and Great Britain left the decision to a tribunal of six, 3 Americans, 2 Canadians, and 1 Brit. The British fellow, after the closing arguments by the American counsel, Jacob McGavock Dickinson of Columbus, Mississippi, sided with the U.S. position, and the final decree made the line short of the U.S.'s furthest claim. However, it left Canadians feeling betrayed and ended the years and years of what was called the Great Rapprochement. The Great Rapprochement was an era of chilly U.S.-British relations, a significant feather in Dickinson's hat for ending that stalemate. And that is going to end up serving him well in his future. By 1905, Dickinson had earned a Doctor of Laws from the University of Illinois and Columbia University. He helped to organize the American Society of International Law and became a member of their executive council. In 1907, he was president of the American Bar Association, and by 1909, Yale University conferred a doctorate of laws on Dickinson. In 1910, he was elected the vice president of the American Society of International Law. From 1909 until 1911, he served as the Secretary of War for his dear friend and associate, President Taft. While on the cabinet, he recommended an annuity retirement for the civil service employees. This was something significant. In 1909, President Taft came to Columbus, Mississippi, and thousands boarded a special excursion train on the Mobile and Ohio Railroad to come to the town to see President Taft. The local school children prepared a small program for him, and much discussion was held whether they should sing the despised Yankee Doodle or the beloved anthem Dixie. Taft arrived on November 2nd at 7:53 p.m. and the children sang Dixie. And according to headlines, Taft made a hit at Secretary Dickinson's native home. Taft gave a speech about reconciliation of North and South based on mutual respect. Someone in the crowd gave an old rebel yell as Taft spoke from the stand on Main Street. Dickinson gave a sincere speech supporting Taft and his sincerity on the topic of reconciliation. Taft then spoke at the Mississippi Female Industrial Institute and College, now Mississippi University for Women, and the 800 all-women student body of IINC hosted a barbecue in Taft's honor. Per the 1909 correspondent for the Natchez Democrat newspaper, Taft told the students, "I wish that every woman in the world was so situated that she should not think it necessary for her to marry if she did not want to." Strong pro-suffrage words from a man in 1909. He went on to state that education and the arts and industries were the best means of bringing this condition of affairs about. After serving in Taft's cabinet, Dickinson served in the U.S. government as Special Assistant Attorney General as it prosecuted U.S. Steel Corporation in an antitrust suit. In 1915 to 1917, Dickinson was made the receiver of the Rock Island lines when their holding companies went bankrupt. In 1927, he was made the president of the Isaac Walton League. The Isaac Walton League is an environmental organization to promote natural resource protection and outdoor recreation and is focused on conservation leadership. That was the last post that Dickinson would hold before his death, December 13th, 1928, in Chicago. He is buried in Nashville, Tennessee. He was 77 years old. So Columbus had once been the mother of the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. Thank you for coming on my tour of Columbus, Mississippi, and learning more about the people who shaped this community. Until next time.